Now, Montessori described planes of development, that happen in 6-year increments. But it's not as if a child suddenly at the age of 6 is completely in the second plane of development. This transition can take more time. It's not a light switch. And we tend in our schools to transition children to a new environment on a schedule that's convenient for the adults. I highly encourage schools, if possible, to have a rolling transition option throughout a school year. There's nothing to say that every child's going to be ready to transition in September. So if you can allow for some open doors in your school where children can transition when the time is right for them, that's the ideal. But again, that can be inconvenient for the adults. And so, I understand when schools make different choices, but you have to remember that development is not just going to happen based on biological age. So it's not the second a child turns 6, the light switch has gone in the other position, and we've got a child who's displaying only second plane characteristics. In fact, in most primary and elementary classrooms, those 5 and 6-year-olds, and even close to 7, you're going to see children displaying characteristics from the first plane of development as well as characteristics from the second plane of development. They can straddle those two planes for a while. So as a result, in both environments, we need to be prepared to respond to children that are displaying characteristics of both planes. We just have to be aware that that's going to happen and be respectful and responsive to that. So we know that as children approach the age of 6, the absorbent mind and the sensitive periods fade, and the reasoning mind and the imagination come to dominate. But it is a fading process, so we will see vestiges of the absorbent mind, particularly in our youngest children. We also see that increased physical stamina and willingness to test themselves. So movement becomes really important, especially as young children in the elementary classroom are exercising, the strength of these new bodies that they have. As we welcome new children into the elementary environment too, we need to think about how they've just left an environment where they were the oldest and they knew everything and they were the ones everyone came to for help. And now they're entering a new environment where they don't know much and they're the youngest. And so they've got a little bit of sensitivity there. We want to be careful to support and orient them as they're navigating that change. It's useful for their development to go through that experience, but they're going to need support. When our children come into our class, whether it's in September or January or November or March, it's important for them to feel how different this environment is. This is a new place that's going to meet your new characteristics. We're telling them that indirectly through all we do. So we want to be sure that we're giving them exciting lessons that tap into the reasoning mind and imagination, that they see the different freedoms and the different sort of way that we work in the environment. But also consider there's so much going on in this transition time that the skills they may have had before may deteriorate. That's okay. We'll meet the children where they are. They'll come back. But as they're acquiring all this new information and new orientation, we're going to see different strengths, emerge. So even though we're trying to keep this environment super exciting and engaging for this reasoning mind that's developing, there are times when this is an overwhelming task for these new children in our classrooms. So keep some activities available that are more reminiscent of what they found satisfying with their absorbent minds. So things that help them organize or classify, even just a basket of shells or rocks that they can sort according to their own classification. Sometimes transitioning children need a break from the excitement of the elementary classroom. So think of ways that we can give them some safe and calming activities when they've been, really exercising their new minds enough for a given day. So as you're thinking about children that transition from primary to elementary, just remember that they're all going to be in varying stages of development, and some of them are going to have stronger skills than others, and some of them are going to need differing levels of support from you. That's okay. That's what we're equipped to do, and we don't expect every child to be on the same path of development at every moment, and that definitely is true of children as they transition into our environments. That's why if they can transition throughout the year or spend lots of time visiting, you're more likely to get them when they're really more ready to head into the elementary classroom.